People talk about the Book of Enoch, and it triggers some Christians. Well, that's not in the Bible. How can you can't trust that? Don't quote the Book of Enoch to me. Look, the Book of Enoch isn't in the Bible, um, because people because scholars thought it wasn't inspired. But a lot of things weren't inspired that were pretty useful and helped define the culture. For instance, how do we know in the Bible what a centurion is? The Bible never tells us what a centurion is. It never tells us what an Augustus is. It never tells us what a Caesar is. We have to look outside of the Bible to see what those things are. The sources for how we understand what a centurion or a Caesar Augustus is are not inspired, but they sure are useful. And it turns out the Book of Enoch inspired a lot of the New Testament writers. There are phrases that the New Testament writers use that are found first in the Book of Enoch. An example is the age to come. That phrase, the age to come, which is the end times, right? The eschatology, that's the eschaton, when Jesus finally obliterates all evil and Eden is restored. That's the age to come. That phrase is in the Book of Enoch, and it's and the New Testament writers quote it. Jesus quotes it. Paul quotes it. Does he quote it? I mean, I don't know that he quotes it. I'm just saying it was in his head. It was a phrase in their head that everybody understood what it meant. It's kind of like we're recording this a couple days here in the United States before the Independence Day. Okay, so if I say things like "land of the free, home of the brave," right? Am I quoting like the Declaration of Independence or something? I don't know. It's just language that is wrapped around the Declaration of Independence. It's language wrapped around people who were influenced by the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution. Like we have all this stuff in our heads as people who live in America. And am I really quoting that on purpose? No, it's just these things are so influential that today or this week, when we hear, God bless the USA, and we think, oh yeah, it's like all these promises in the Declaration and like the founders of the United States, like the things they said, give me liberty or give me death. I can't even tell you who said that. It doesn't, I can tell you, but that's not the point. The point is people have these quotes. Well, that's how it was in Jesus's time. They had all this stuff in their head because it was part of their culture. And yeah, maybe the first time we find it in a record is the Book of Enoch. But other people thought about it too.
Of course, it made sense for Jesus and the apostles to think about these things when it comes to intertestamental books in that span of 400 years, or including Apocrypha, even if they're not included in the Bible, because at least when it comes to Paul, maybe Peter wasn't. Even though he quotes alongside with Jude, he quotes the Book of Enoch. But let's say that Peter, as a fisherman, didn't have too much time or finances to educate himself. Paul did. He read pagan philosophers, poets. So he was probably acquainted with Jewish tradition, maybe even mythology, and not just Jewish, including Greek and possibly even Roman. So he was an educated man. I remember, and I just mentioned this to a friend when we went out to eat the other day. I love when Paul was in prison and he's sending the letter and he says, bring me my cloak and the scrolls and my books. So now we don't know which books he was asking for, but I don't think it's fair to assume he meant just the Old Testament parchments. It could have been very well be some other stuff. So the Bible never forbids us to study and research this extra biblical material, because at least Jesus and the apostles, they knew stuff which was happening before their times or in their times because it was their culture. But for us, 2000 years or 2 millennia after the apostles, but even further down the road when it comes to the prophets of the Old Testament, we have completely lost the context because it's completely different culture. We come from different continents, countries, lifestyles. We can read one word and think completely differently about the same word that the ancient people did. So, going back and researching Enoch or some other books, yeah, we don't have to say them, well, they're level to level or shoulder to shoulder with the Bible, but they're very helpful. So, yeah, I agree with that.